Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. My name is Chido Onuma. I'm the coordinator of the Socialist Library and Archives Nigeria, SOLA Nigeria. I would like to, on behalf of the management, the board, and staff of the organization, to welcome us all to this momentous occasion, the official launch of the Socialist Library and Archives platform. It's been 2 years since we put together the idea, conceptualized the idea, and started working on what is proving to be the largest collection of materials, progressive and left literature, not just in Nigeria, but perhaps in Africa. So today is just to formally introduce this project and look at the opportunities, the challenges, and the prospects. We have it's a very short but hopefully impressive event we have today. After this introduction, we'll call on a couple of our partners to give goodwill messages. And then we get a keynote address from Professor Biodun Jeyifo, who is the chairman of board of SOLA. Then we have a short panel discussion. We'll do the formal presentation of SOLA. Then we introduce the website just to give comrades, friends, colleagues, and partners a feel of what to expect. And then we'll have general discussions around SOLA, and then the closing remarks. We hope for all of this to take anywhere between 1 hour, 20 minutes and 1 hour, 30 minutes maximum. So without wasting much time, I would like to call, I've seen a few people here. I would like to call on Cyril, who is from IFRA, the Deputy Director of IFRA, to give us his goodwill message, and then we'll go to Comrade Comfort Ikpi, who is the Executive Director of the Calabar-based Girls Powers Initiative that has a long history of association with the SOLA, of course, and continued partnership with SOLA. So I'd like to call on Comrade Cyril. If you are available, please speak for a minute or two, and then we'll move on.
Good evening. Yes, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Chido, and greetings from Ibadan, because I understand that we are all in various places tonight. So I wanted to, I'm representing Dr. Barbara Morovic, who is the director of IFRA Nigeria. But it's true that it is me at IFRA who has been, following on this great project. I want to thank, I won't be too long. I just wanted to mention that this project on, assisting with the digitization of the history, the private archives of left, Marxist, socialist, progressive activists in Nigeria has started since 2020 with the digitization of the archive of Olayinka Ndeoni that is online. So for this, I also want to recognize the contribution of Dr. Said Husseini and Dr. Shola Olurunyomi, who have really been instrumental in this project and the continuation now that we are so happy to see coming to fruition with SOLAR. Of course, Edwin and Bene Madunagu, thank you so much for also being, the first at the beginning of this project that we hope will continue to preserve the history, but also to share it, because, this is the most important, of course, is once we have preserved these documents and this history, what do we do? How do we share it? How do we make it known? And how do we help people who need this in their life to access these documents? So I won't be so long, of course. Thank you so much to you, Chido, who you have been very instrumental in bringing together all of these energies. So yeah, thank you again for everything. And we are very, very much looking forward to see what you've achieved so far and what you will achieve in the future.
Thank you so much, Cyril, and thank you, of course, to IFRA, you and your colleagues at IFRA for the wonderful support in the last 2 years. So I'll call on Dr. Daniel Mann of the Frederick Ebert Foundation to give us his goodwill message. And then we'll move to Comfort of Girls Powers Initiative. Daniel, please.
Thank you, comrades. So good to have made it. I think I'm just in time. Thank you for the opening remarks. And I was while I was waiting to join, I was just looking to this very impressive website you have created in the archive. And well, I thank all of you for the invitation and the recognition of Friedrich Ebert Stiftung as one of the, well, for also our humble contribution to the leftist movement in Nigeria, I want to say, by all my predecessors, and obviously of our work with the comrades from NLC and other labor organizations. Since I see Comrade John Oda joining, greetings also to Otuba and the workers across West Africa. But let me also share a personal story. I think when I was preparing myself to come to Nigeria 3 years ago, I already had done my PhD in African socialism, or parts of African socialism, more from the Eastern provenience, the works of Nyerere and Ujamaa socialism. And to the best of my knowledge, I never really came across a lot of contributions to the struggle, or to the what is it now, to the body of work from Nigerian Marxists before I prepared myself. Then, of course, I came across the work of the Madunagus and their famous library down south. And I must say, for us as internationalists and international socialists and friends of the African proceedings of socialism, so to speak, this of your project, I cannot commend it high enough to make it more accessible to the world, to make the thoughts of all those great leftist thinkers of the Nigerian and West African provenience available to the world, for all of us to share. Because I would say this is one of the things in our work as FES, which we see as one of the most important of all, to say we bring together these kind of thinkers from the socialist camp, the communists, the Marxists, even the social democrats, and certainly the labor and workers movements, to share our thoughts, to learn from each other, and to further the thinking and the understanding of how we can get a world which is more socially just, more gender just, and more progressive all around. So I would say, on behalf of FES, once again, I thank you so much for recognizing us. I'm looking forward to the other contributions, and I'm looking forward to a lot of impact from this kind of socialist library and archive, because it's really important that we can all share these things and access it. So thank you so much, comrades, and very fruitful meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mann. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll be coming to FES soon to ask for support and collaborations to help the library grow. Thank you once again. So we'll now go to Comfort EP of Girls Power Initiative. If she's available, we can take her goodwill message.
Yes, I want to say good evening to everybody. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I just have to find time and join this. Let me, on behalf of the board, staff, management staff, and girls of Girls Power Initiative, GPI Calabar Center, and specifically on behalf of Professor Bene Madunagu, say very big congratulations to this group for the most recent achievements that you have achieved so far. Particularly, we are happy that we were able to be part of this progress by contributing our time and also offering our space and other resources that we have in our possession to contribute to this. And also all thanks to Dr. Edwin Madunagu for bringing in GPI. We are looking forward to see how the website will be like, because of course, I'm sure it will be a very useful resource to us based on the work we do with girls and women, and even other people that come in to use our resource center. So congratulations, thank you, and we look forward to a more advanced website going forward. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And we can't thank GPI enough for providing us the space to start the digitization process. We are really, really grateful. And of course, we're thankful to Dr. Bene Madunagu, Professor Bene Madunagu, beg your pardon, who's the co-founder of Solar, and all the support that we receive from Solar. So we'll go forward. I don't think we have a representative from CDD. Please, let's mute if you're not speaking. I think some noise is coming. We're expecting representative from CDD. We have nobody yet. They may do give their goodwill message when they come on board. So the next item on the agenda will be the keynote address by Professor Biodu Jaifo. Comrade Jaifo is a Professor Emeritus and Research Professor of African and African American Studies and of Comparative Literature at Harvard University. Prof, over to you, sir. You have about 15 minutes to make your presentation. Yeah. Comrade BJ.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Chido. Let me say right away that it is as the chairman of the board of advisors and trustees that I speak, not as an emeritus professor. And also I am speaking as a former national president of ASU. These are more important to me, you know. So I cannot express enough my excitement and joy at what we are trying to do today. That is what you, Comrade Chido, has described as a soft launch of the website of Solar. Now, the website itself, which we are launching today, is not the real thing about Solar. It is a window on what Solar is now on the ground in Calabar and what we hope it will become. In a nutshell, Solar already on the ground is the only institution of the left of its kind in Africa. We all know and we have heard of socialist booksellers. We've heard of socialist publishers. We have even heard of socialist institutions and schools for the training and production of cadres of the left, like the famous Winneba Institute in Ghana. But a socialist library and a socialist archive, the Solar is the only one of its kind in Africa. And if you bear in mind that for almost 2 decades, for almost 2 years, Solar, without it being called Solar, has actually been in existence in Calabar. That is a free public library devoted to socialism, a free public library. The only places in the world in which you have free socialist libraries are in post-revolutionary socialist societies. Not in societies, definitely not in the developing world, and in fact, nowhere else do you have a free public library devoted to socialism and the struggles of working people and generations of revolutionaries all over the continent. And for this, we have, of course, the vision and the tenacity and the sacrifice of Comrades Edwin and Bene Matunagu. Now, I won't go into the details of my relationship with comrades Edwin and Ben Madunaku, just to say very briefly that Eddie and I first met as undergraduates at the University of Ibadan. We knew of each other's existence as fellow undergraduates, but at that stage, the connection had not been cemented. But when I returned from the US after my graduate studies in 1975, we reconnected again. And right away from that moment, both of us, apart from our revolutionary struggles in different parts of the country, in our different parts of the country, we somehow connected on two key issues, which we both identified, Hello?
It's no problem.
Can you hear me? I can't see the, which we both identified as information and documentation, the vital need for information and documentation. And I think it is. Hello?
Please, can we mute if we are not speaking? Okay, comrade, please go ahead. We can hear you.
I am speaking.
We can hear you,
Hello?
comrade. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So in short, just to move on, the idea behind Solar, of which the website is merely a window, is that what Edwin and Bene Madunagu started in the Free Public Library in Calabar, we now want to institutionalize as a permanent, organ of the struggles in Nigeria and Africa. Now, what we have already started in Solar, and this is with the help of organizations, fraternal organizations, some of whose representatives have actually spoken tonight, that is IFRA, FES, and GPI. What we are attempting to do is to have a comprehensive digitalization of the writings, the lives, the works, the struggles of many, many generations of Nigerian revolutionaries and activists, so that as I speak today, as we launch the website today, we already have, something already achieved, is digitalization, which will soon be available online as a kind of online library. Again, this is the only one of its kind on the African continent. And then also physically on the ground, we have the physical library itself, which is a carryover from the Free Public Library, which operated between 2000 and 2018. No, sorry, 1993 and 2018. It did not close completely, but its functions were a little reduced, and we hope to completely resuscitate it as the Free Public Library, which was started by Eddie and Bene. So that is one aspect, the online library. But the physical library in Calabar itself will continue and be expanded. And in fact, in this regard, it gives me great pleasure I'm not making an announcement which is completely new, but it may be new beyond the circle of the Board of Trustees and Board of Advisors, that we have actually been given a piece of land in Calabar in which to build the permanent structure of SOLA, Socialist Library and Archives. So we will consolidate this as a permanent gift to the future. Now, speaking of this aspect of SOLA, that is the permanent structure on the ground, I would like to get into a slight detour into questions of what exactly are we archiving, and what in fact is the nature of archives. Because as we all know, the SOLA stands for, the acronym SOLA stands for Socialist Library and Archives. Now, I do not want to be too, kind of abstruse, too scholarly, too abstract. But let me simply say that the idea of an archive is a way of bridging the divide which usually exists between generations of revolutionaries and activists. A deep divide that over time exists between revolutionaries and activists of different generations. In fact, also within same living generations, that sometimes a divide comes into being. And as a matter of fact, this divide can actually widen or broaden into a chasm between generations. Now, if you look at the current generation of activists and leftists and revolutionaries in Nigeria and Africa, the idea and reality of a divide can actually be seen in two things that have happened in the last 40 years. I will very briefly describe what these two things are. I will not comment extensively on them. I'll just note them as a deep, deep divide between revolutionaries and activists and leftists of different generations. The first divide is what I would describe as that between Marxists, socialists, social democrats, and other progressives in general, who can be described as universalists and internationalists. Universalists and internationalists. Between them on the one hand, and on the other hand, between those who can be described as ethno-nationalists, irredentists. And I'm not using these terms pejoratively. I'm using them descriptively. That is progressive, people who remain Marxists, who remain socialists, but are restructuring ethno-nationalists. Now, in fact, this divide is so prominent that it actually takes in some comrades who themselves, used to be internationalists and universalists. Not just because he's gone now and I can speak safely about him without annoying him, but because in fact, he made his shift from a universalist and an internationalist to an ethno-nationalist, restructuring, what I can call restructionistas. The Comrade Olaoni, who remained until the very end a Marxist and a socialist. Now, this divide is very, very deep, especially to the extent that comrades of more recent generations tend to fall into the latter group. That is not the group of universalists and internationalists. Now, part of what our project will be as a socialist library and archive is to document, inform about this divide in order to transcend them, or at the very least, not make them cripple us as revolutionaries, socialists, social democrats, and progressives. I could go on this one topic alone for a long time, mentioning that as honorably as they can manage it, there are other prominent, very prominent, and highly respected comrades of the Nigerian left, such as the late Bala Usman, Gigi Dara, who have taken a stand on this issue. And if I may add one more name, again, honorably and non-reductively, Comrade Offiong Akwa Offiong. So I said that is one divide. There's another one, which is lesser known, but which, in my thinking, is a huge one to which if Solar will address itself. And that is the divide between comrades for whom race and the African continent and the Black world remain primary items of subjectivity, individual and collective subjectivity. That is, before they identify themselves as patriotic, nation state activists and revolutionaries, they refer themselves first as Pan-Africanists for whom the Black race and the African continent, in terms of both its colonial and post-colonial experience, remain the primary source of identification. And in contrast to that, are those for whom it is as their primary form of identification and investment is the nation state. Now, what seems to me crucial on this particular account is that at least for the generation, for my own generation, there was no divide between these two. you are no less a Pan-Africanist for being a Nigerian patriot. But it seems to me I have met many members of the generation. If you said Frantz Fanon, they say who? Who? Frantz Fanon? If you mention Amilcar Cabral, they have not. And these are people who claim to be leftists, who have never read a word from Cabral, from Kwame Nkrumah, from Steve Biko, from Ruth First, from, the whole gamut of Pan-Africanists. So it seems to me that we cannot and should not assume that these divides that sometimes, as I said, widen or broaden into a deep chasm is here to stay with us permanently. So one of the things that we hope SOLA will do is to, address itself to documenting, archiving, and debating these issues. And here, if I may not, surprise you, if I won't surprise you, let me draw, make a reference to the Holy Book of the Christians, Matthew 24, verse 34, where Christ said, and I'm just roughly paraphrasing him, before this generation shall have passed away, all these things that I foretell will happen, will come to pass. By the word generation in that quote, before this generation shall have passed away, all these things that I thought, will come to pass. What he meant by generation is that every person living at that time, from the youngest to the oldest, is one generation. One single generation. Before this generation shall have passed away, which actually in a profound sense, and I cannot emphasize this enough, when we talk of generations, we're really talking of inter, and cross generation. You are speaking at least across 5 to 6 generations, all living at the same time. Now, is the discourse between them going to be like a Tower of Babel? Is it going to be like the day of Pentecost, when people were speaking in tongues and no one could understand each other? So by what I have been making of generation here, the one that concerns me the most is that at this moment in time in Nigeria, in Africa, in the African diaspora, the Nigerian diaspora, is that actually we are talking of a cross-generational or transgeneration where there doesn't seem to be one dominant perspective to sort of give coherence and salience and value to all our dreams, all our aspirations, all our hopes. So to begin to round up, I want to say it's a very, very tall order that SOLA has posed to itself. We need all the help we can get, and we are getting some from, again, those who have given us goodwill messages today, IFRA, FES, and GPI. But also we need a dimension, a perspective in which we must at least recognize that we speak across a very wide range of generational experience, and that we must try to find ways of bridging the gaps that exist between us, the different generations. To speak for myself personally, it's sometimes difficult for me to understand. I try as much as possible to appreciate, even if I don't understand, if I disagree. Comrades and activists of the newest generation who go primarily through the social media. Because in the social media, there don't seem to be any rules, any perspectives, which will sort of adjudicate and relate different perspectives together. One example, for instance, was the case of Seun Kuti's case, where there was a very intense, extremely intense debate and disagreement among progressives and revolutionaries. And for the precise reason that this was adjudicated on the social media, it caused a lot of unnecessary and undue bickering among revolutionaries and progressives. It is my hope that Solar, both in its online edition through digitalized material which will be available and which can be accessed online throughout the world, as well as, we hope also to be publishing in due course a newsletter which will be available both online and in print. And by the way, also, in spite of the fact that the emphasis of my speech tonight has been on Solar as has been on Solar's work to date. In fact, in the future, we will not be guided, we will not be restricted only to what Solar has done to date. We are going to venture into other areas. Principally, we are going to venture into also socialist publishing and socialist, book distribution. So it is not only online that Solar will be encountered and engaged, but Solar will also be encountered through booklets, pamphlets, and full-length books, of which we will be the publishers ourselves. And if I may even venture beyond that, we will also be book distributors ourselves. All of this may not come to pass. I'm not I'm not taking out the mantle of Jesus, who said, before this generation shall have passed, all of these things of which I speak will not be that one at the talk. This is a very realistic and doable mission to set ourselves, that if these are not accomplished in the present generation, by generation I mean that one where from the youngest to the oldest, 5 or 6 generations before this generation, by the time it passes in another such generation, all of these things of which I speak tonight will come to pass. So I thank you for your patience. And once again, I want to say pay a glowing tribute to my comrade and my friend and my brother, Edwin Martinaku, without whom all of this would not have come to pass. Thank you for your patience. Aluta continua. Venceremos.
Victory asserta. Thank you so much, comrade, for that wonderful perspective. I'm sure comrades, colleagues, friends would have comments to make. We'll get to that in a minute. We're supposed to have a short panel discussion, but unfortunately, one of our comrades, Sarah Panata, she had some medical emergency. She was supposed to join us from Paris, France. So we'll get Comrade Comfort Ikweme, Executive Director of GPI, to just say something both from the perspective of what Comrade BJ spoke about, but also the participation and collaboration between GPI and Solar. And then we get Comrade Shola Oloriyomi to also make a short intervention before we open the discussion up. So, Comrade Comfort, if you're ready, just a minute or two. Comrade Comfort, are you available? If she's not, then we can take Comrade Shola so that we can save time. The idea is to leave here 6:30 p.m. West Africa time. So, Comrade Shola, we can get your intervention, then we'll go to the formal presentation of Solar, and then we'll get responses from comrades who are on the platform today. Quickly, 5 minutes, sir. You are front and center. You are the brain box of the digitization process. So shed more light on that.
Thank you, Comrade Chido. Just a second so I can get this stuff together. I'm having to use the same facility as keynote speaker, Comrade Professor Biodo Jefo. But like he says, he reminds us that he's here today not simply as a teacher and scholar, but also the other side, intuitively indistinguishable from his essence, that is his revolutionary life. He's given the most thoughtful and incisive, and not unusually as he does, insight into not just the work of Solar, but the larger import for the struggles in the country and on the African continent, even I suspect even in the diaspora. To unpack all of this in 5 minutes is a lot, but let's just quickly put a few nodal points out there that I think help us to start some debate or conversation that can always go on beyond this. Now, moments like this, I resort sometimes to my first language, and just the significance of this to me is what I derive from the Yoruba as lest we forget. I mean, it's commonplace, and we tend to see this now and again. Lest we forget. But in that similar simple, construction, is locked the entire history of how people are projected, how people are narrated, and how people come, to be represented in life. The contemporary crisis that we seem to have is actually derived partly because we have no presence in as part of custodians of the technology and narrative process of the information age, the digital interface. We never did during the analog era, electronic analog, nor in the much earlier period, pre-electronic analog period of our lives, at least in the last 1,000 years or thereabout. One history of an entire continent running back and forth, 500-600 years of transatlantic enslavement, and the expansion of the appetite of capital in its attempt to transit from merchant capital in Europe to industrial capital, and the need to start taking other people from other parts of the world apart from its own local working class that it has exploited to the tilt. So this part of it, and what that meant is that we entered colonialism and a certain kind of forced modernity, not on our own terms, and also what that meant, a lot of memory was lost. The kind of memory, for instance, of the kind of trade groups, cottage industries, et cetera, that could have been there. The character of, for instance, the different segment of the groups and classes that we have at the agricultural peasant level, for instance, and forms of writing that we had. So when Solar comes in here, it speaks not just for socialism, it actually speaks in response. That's the sense that I get from Comrade BJ's contribution of a response to the trauma of a continent. And this reminds us of Hampata Dio's saying that when the old dies in Africa, an entire library burns down. Solar is here, therefore, in the words, or by implication, of Comrade BJ's contribution, that is to reverse that anxiety, a legitimate anxiety, by the way, when the old dies in Africa, an entire library burns down. But aside from that, we need to quickly take some soundbite from a few other issues. Please do remember, when we talk about this current development, how significant it is and the need for us to ensure that it keeps thriving, going on, being supported with your suggestions, with your insights, with your criticisms, et cetera, because the fact that we hardly have this kind of anywhere in the world. Indeed, the free public libraries globally at this instance dedicated to socialist thoughts and ideas and ideals. I also have moved around the world a bit. And even where you don't even move these days, I also have moved online, trying to find out, trying to seek out ideas, I moved into the Kerala Indian Republic, I moved into the Far East, I moved to South America and the rest. And I like to concur with the keynote speaker's observation that libraries of this nature are rare. And please do remember that what is going to be unveiled today is the surrogate of a physical library that is actually back there in Calabar. So that tells you of the enormity of work that has to be done. Our weather is an interesting one that challenges, the longevity and health of forest renewable materials such as books. etc., etc. So this tells you a bit to the extent to which it has taken Comrade Edwin Madnago and Bennett Madnago to have this going on. Coincidentally, given that it is Biodun Jeyefo that is saying this, it ties up to an earlier narrative that I was going to give by way of also acknowledging and expressing gratitude to IFRA, that there were actually earlier efforts at digitization, but they were not socialist, as far as I know, dedicated primarily to socialist thoughts and ideas. Indeed, the earliest documentation of the archives were done by the Information Age Network, which I coordinated and I still coordinate now. That's the acronym is IFANET, and it's a deliberate thing, you know. So this ties us back to the fact that we use the Yoruba knowledge system to acknowledge the fact of a proto-algorithmic system in the culture for a largely oralist mode of documentation, you know, that has that is based on probables, possibles, and even the standard preferables that we now just categorization of determining the procedure of those kinds of the pedagogy of such work now. And in this respect, the photographs, we are glad they are not part of the digitized ones by the current effort at the Olaoni space. But we're glad that we did that then, they are still there. This also goes for certain digitization of efforts of the Beko Ransom Kuti by the same organization, and luckily also of the earlier fella. So which means that we have the largest archive in Nigeria of the pre-electronic era documentation of these people. Now, why do I return to this while talking about solar? As it is, our intention was to do something of this stuff for Comrade Biodun Jeyefo in Ibadan. But interestingly, though he forgot to mention this, or maybe deliberately he didn't, he is offered, for instance, the entire African literature journals of the research in African literature to the Solar Library. So what that means is Solar is also acting as beacon. And it does seem to me, and this is my own suggestion to this forum, that we needn't go ahead and duplicate efforts. We could do standard digitization, and we can link it up. We can always link it up to, shall we call the Solar platform the mother library, okay? We can link all our libraries together, and that is most likely what we are going to be doing with all of the Biodun Jeyefo archive in Ibadan, Olorode archive in Ogbomoso. I'm glad part of the documentation we had earlier had ensured that other groups are taking care of the Bala Usman, Balarabe, and some of our other comrades' documentation in the other parts of the country. But let me just, by closing, also note that other libraries that you may be interested are also in Calabar. Solar has been able to rescue the Comrade Escutoyo's library, you know, you have a lot of stories about all those libraries are gone, and they are not. They are not. We have a substantial amount of those documents at SOLA. And of course, we look forward, in the words of Comrade Biodun Jeffo, for the publishing future, for the book distribution. I would just say the best that this forum can give to this keynote and to the initiative of Edwin and Bene Madnago are the suggestions that we can we can gather today, we can harvest today, and maybe also in the days to come, months to come, and years to come. So you are welcome, and we'd like to thank Comrade Biodun Jeffo for squeezing out time to also do this for himself, I guess, and his comrade Edwin and Bene, his comrades Edwin and Bene Madnago. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for your time. And back to Comrade Chido, excellent coordination.
Thank you very much, Comrade Shola. We'd have to go back to Comrade BJ now to formally do. So we'll call on, we are grateful to Comrade Uyi, a young comrade who joined us a few months ago and has just made this like a lifelong commitment. And she's the daughter of one of our late comrades, for those of us who know the journalist and politician, Comrade Basi Ekubasi in Calabar. She's been the one helping to put all of this together. We're eternally grateful to Comrade Uyi. So Comrade Uyi, if you pull up the website, the chair of the board of SOLA, Comrade BJ, would formally do the launch, and then you put us through in 5 minutes what you've done in the last 3 months, what the site looks like, how to access the site, navigate the site, and then we'll open the floor for contributions, comments from comrades and friends. So over to you, Comrade Uyi. Once the site is up, Comrade Chair of SOLA Board would just do the formal pronouncement of the announcement, and then you go ahead with the tour of the site.
Okay, I'm going to, good evening, comrades. I'm going to share my screen now so that we can look at the website while he speaks. Thank you.
Okay, so Comrade BJ, over to you for the formal.
Well, it gives me great pleasure to now formally declare the website open and accessible to not only Nigerians, Africans, but the whole world. This is indeed a very, very momentous occasion, and it will be one that I will treasure for the rest of my life. So thank you, Comrade Uyi, and the website is now formally declared open.
Thank you, Comrade. Can we get some virtual clap? Thank you so much, Comrade. So over to you, Comrade Uyi, to just run us through in the next few minutes what the site looks like, how we can navigate it. And just to mention that this is work in progress. We've called comrades, friends, colleagues out today so that you can also, as Comrade Shola mentioned, we can get your perspective on how to make this better, how to enrich it, how to make it sustainable. Over, please.
Good day again, comrades. The website, as you can see, is up and running. I will just briefly take us through what is available currently. So first of all, there is an About Us section where you can view the origin of SOLA, the vision and mission, governance structure, aims and objectives, reports, library policies, projects, and press references. In order to save time, I'm trying not to go into every nook and cranny of the website. I mean, we can explore on our own later. There's also a gallery and a book catalog. Now the catalog here shows what is available in person at the library in Calabar here. And we have many categories here listed, but on the website itself, we have our digital resources, which are on this bar here. Now, these resources consist of essays, books, unpublished manuscripts, journals and magazines, correspondences, and audio visuals. Each of these have subcategories. I will just skim through them. They are subdivided into authors. We have authors here that are highlighted. You can see. We also have different subjects highlighted. Same with the books, unpublished manuscripts. Correspondences have bulletins, letters, press releases. Audiovisuals have, so let me move this. Audiovisuals have audiobooks, documentaries, pictures, videos. Like Comrade Chido said, this is a work in progress. So for now, we have been focusing on essays. We have quite a lot of essays uploaded already. And in the future, we would move into other aspects. We've already started with journals, in fact, but mostly essays for now. So I will just show you an example of what it looks like. Let me start with Comrade Edwin Madunagu's essays that we have uploaded here. Now, this is what the essay tab looks like. You can search if there's anything in particular that you are looking for. If you know the name of what you're looking for, you could just search it here. Events or whatever it is that you're looking for, but for now, the essays are here. You can search for them by name or you could just browse. They are arranged chronologically, so from the latest essays to the oldest ones. We also have essays arranged according to subjects. And we can open politics and governance here, for instance. And in this section, I think we have essays here from 2022, like this one. Pardon my network, sorry. We have essays here from 2022, as you can see here, dates highlighted, all the way to, I would think, 1975. I will just go to the last page and we'll see what's available there. So we have essays here, yes, from 1975 that have been uploaded. And as time goes, we would add more. The journals and magazines, right now we have 8 journals and magazines, 8 titles that we are working on. They're all here. And the problem with the journals is that we don't have we're trying not to infringe on anybody's copyrights. So we only have the cover pages and where it's applicable, we have table of contents so that you know what is available. But then if you need any content from the journals, you could always contact SOLA and they'll give you the materials there. But this is what the journals look like for now. But apart from journals, the essays, we have actual complete essays on there. Let me take one from here, for instance. To access the essays, you just click this download button. It's not opening. Apparently, there seems to having some issues here. Having some issues here.
We
But-
can hear, yeah, go ahead, we can hear you.
I'm having issues. It's not opening as I intended.
It's okay, I mean, just
Okay.
go to other, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's open.
Basically, that is the website is open. It's available for use. You can download as you wish, and again, it's a work in progress. We intend to add more authors, more essays, more books. And if anybody has any contributions that we would like to donate to the library, we are very open to that. And if you go through the website and you come across any issues, we are open to feedback as well. We're trying to make this as accessible as possible for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Uyi, for the wonderful presentation, but even more importantly, for these great efforts. So exciting to just look at the website and the treasure trove of materials that are available. So there we have it, comrades. As she mentioned, this is work in progress. There is an email address, info@socialistlibraryarchive.org for feedback. There is a phone number on the website. There is also all the banking details of SOLA. That's where we need comrades and friends, associates, and partners to also come to the support of SOLA so that we can really explore the full potentials and opportunities that exist. We're gradually coming to the end of the program. We just want to hear from comrades, perhaps spend the next 15, 20 minutes to take comments from comrades' contributions, and then we'll just go into the closing remark. So if any comrades would like to comment, questions, or respond to Comrade BJ or the intervention by Comrade Shola, kindly virtually raise your hand. We'll call upon you to make your intervention or ask your question. Yeah, so it could be anything, including for SOLA board members who are here who want to add their voices to what both Comrade BJ and Comrade Shola have said, who are both members of the Board of Trustees and Board of Advisors, but also generally for comrades. So let's raise our hand if we want to make any comments or contributions or questions. Or donations, if people are not making any comments, or we also
Okay,
we also welcome donations now.
Donations, sir, may I?
Please go ahead.
There's a common after him.
I can't see it. Sorry. Okay, Comrade KK, please go ahead.
Thank you, comrades. And let me start on a celebratory note. That is, congratulations, to SOLA, and to also join Comrade BJ in saluting the that that it is archive, but it's not just that, but just generally about documentation about, in the history, political, economy, but information generally. And the reason for that, we look at the approach of the in terms of its documentation, which is now brought to light, attempt to tell the story of Nigeria, inclusively, the story of the Nigerian left, just like the theme of Comrade BJ's lectures, will also be told, and that to me happen. That to me appears a very, logical, and a scientific way of going about it. That if the left does not pay attention, to the question of history, the question of documentation of information, is not generally, about the society, that even its own history, will also be lost, in the process. And of course, who else can take up, the task of telling the story of the left, but by the left itself, which we have not done, and which cheerfully, that the solar experiment is trying to bring about. Let me just end with one anecdote. Recently, a minister of the Federal Republic, in an occasion, was trying to make reference, to what Comrade Segun Oshoba, the radical historian, who now lives in Ijebu-Ode, did the collaboration between him and Comrade Bala Usman in writing the Minority Report in the build-up to the making of the 1979 Constitution. Chief Segun Oshoba, the former governor of Ogun State, was in attendance. So the minister now was now paying tribute to Chief Segun Oshoba and said, yes, that they had known of Chief Segun Oshoba a very long time, that his uncle, Dr. Bala Usman, collaborated with Chief Segun Oshoba, the politician, in making, in the writing of the Minority Report. And they just went on, and of course, in his audience, nobody, could see the, very fatal error, that has been. So I sent him a WhatsApp message. I said, so Honorable Minister, no, you are wrong. Oh. The Segun Oshoba that you are addressing is not the Segun Oshoba that you have in mind. The Segun Oshoba that you have in mind actually is alive and is living there. By the way, the occasion was in Ogun State. That Segun Oshoba is there in the Ogun State in Ijebu-Ode, and of course he thanked me and just said that he will find an opportunity to correct it. Now I just bring this story just to show, and this is an event that happened less than 50 years ago. That report, was launched in 1978. Just about 45 years ago. That you could have that kind of a discussion, and you can replicate this story, appropriating from BJ's definition, of generation, of trade unions. They will perhaps would just be as blank as any other person, there. I'm just trying to say that this effort, is of a great, historical importance, and I like to, as a member, of the Board of Trustees of Solar, to appeal that we need the support of everybody, especially on the left, make it a very successful experiment. Once again, I thank all and thank you for the opportunity of making this intervention. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade KK. Comrade Aye, Baba Aye, quickly, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be quick. And first and foremost, I also join in saluting the great efforts that went into this. Quick responses to Comrade BJ's. I agree with a lot of what was said. However, I think that part of the problem, maybe much more than the separation between universalist and internationalist Marxist and ethnic irredentism, is to a great extent large disconnect in that you see a lot of organizing is almost dead. You see, and without such connection, I also think that seeds of where we are now, not only in that regards, but in several other ways, because of time, I might not go into such detail, but seeds of this are probably there. I mean, even from documentations by people like Eddie Madunagu, Ayodele Curtis, the fact is that, I mean, we didn't live through this, but the history shows that the Nigerian left itself was split along the federal and Biafra lines during the war. Different context shapes how similar but different contents play out in different eras. And I think one of the most important things, in my view, from what Comrade BJ said, which I was elated hearing that, is about, Solar playing the role of digital and physical publishing, because part of the problem also is dearth of literature, the importance of socialist literature and socialist organization, no matter how minimal, because I mean, that is how interpreting the world and changing it, or at least attempting to change it, have a dialectical relationship. So, and I'll be summing up here, and I think part of what such publishing, without prejudice to what the Solar and the publishing arm will have in mind, I think the issue of we need to document our histories, as Comrade KK said, and in so many ways. But I think one thing missing, one thing lacking is we don't even have like biographies of people that have, of the leading lights of our history. The biography of a revolutionary goes beyond just an holographic documentation. It is more often than not a history of a movement which such people are in. And I also think, and I'll sum up here, I think that the older generation owe us some things. There are a lot of things you hear mentioned either cryptically, things like Odeomu, this and that. I think I don't see security concerns emerging from documenting such now. And there could be lessons for the present, or the worst case scenario. This could be messages in the bottle for generations to come. I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Aye. Do we have any hands up anymore? If not, we'll bring back Comrade BJ to just give us.
Chido, there is, I put my hand up.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, Comrade. Please go ahead.
Okay, let me join those who have spoken to thank the leadership of the archive for taking this idea from celebrating 75 years of AD to continuing the WhatsApp platform, which one would say is one of the richest in terms of conversation around the left, and putting a these enormous resources digitally, I think will help the processes which contributors, especially BJ, had raised. I was quite pleased that he's able to give the 3 categories of the comrades that we have presently. And these 3 categories find very varying expressions in the WhatsApp platform that if comrades have been following, and I'm sure that virtually everybody that have attended this launching today have tried to follow. It is true that because of the state of our tertiary institutions and the fact that the left have had a lot of setbacks, the caliber of graduates and students we are having this day is not as it used to be, to just put the issues mildly. So we need, to go back to trying to rebuild the structures so as to give some form of appropriate ideological rendering to the younger ones who have come into this movement and who, for one reason or the other, have not read as widely as socialists and Marxists used to read in the past. And I just want to say that, and with respect to the documentation of the trade unions, which Keke made allusions to, I keep wondering why I keep asking Ejiofor and the others if they had worked with some of these people, Duka Eze, and so on and so forth. Why have we not made efforts to document the things they have done? Even the Imodu one, only the first volume, and unfortunately we were not able to follow up on it before the person who originated it also passed on. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think what the archive had done is to show the way that it can be done if you have a group of dedicated comrades who are committed to this. And on this note, I think we should thank all that had worked behind the scene, who have worked in the center, in the front line, to ensure that we reach where we are with the archive today. That's the comment I wanted to just add.
Thank you very much, Comrade Comrade Oda, for that real valuable contribution. Do we have any other comments, questions? We have just about 7 minutes to close this. If not, we'll call back Comrade BJ in case he has any closing remarks or responses to some of the responses to his presentation. Comrade BJ. Comrade Shola, can you hear me? Comrade Shola, are you still there? I hope other comrades can hear me.
We can hear you.
We can.
Okay, so it doesn't.
Very well, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if Comrade BJ is not available, I'll just go ahead to bring this to an end. We were supposed to take a closing remark by Comrade Said, who has worked tirelessly.
This thing has gone off. Why? Hello?
We have a problem with technology in the.
Yeah, we can hear you, comrade. I was saying if you had any last words before I do the closing remark.
Well, actually, I don't. Only a very quick one, in response to Comrade Babaye, to say that while I agree with him on the question of, the example he gave of the division between those who supported the Federalists and those who supported Biafra from the left, that is within the left. You see, I don't think it applies really to the point I was making about the divide between universalists and internationalists on one side, and then ethnic redentists and restructionists on the other hand. Because the left categorically, historically, and at all time is usually driven by splits, by factional splits. So there's nothing new in that. That's the left. Throughout of modern history of revolutions and struggles, there are always splits, political splits, ideological splits, but the one about the split between universalists and internationalists on the one hand, and those who move over to either nation-state patriotic nationalism or more fundamentally ethno-nationalism. That's a different kind. And it was because of it being a different kind that I deliberately emphasized the fact that Olaoni, especially Olaoni, remained a Marxist and a socialist to the end of his life, in spite of the fact that he made that move. So, and the reason that his example is instructive to us is that he is one of the few who continued to be a dedicated Marxist and socialist. I don't think one can say the same of all or even most of those who made that move. That's what I'm saying. Those who moved to Biafra and those who stay with Federalists continue to be Marxists and socialists. But when your Marxism and your socialism becomes profoundly questionable when you make that move, we are talking of something else. I know I am fishing in troubled waters. So make I stop there.
Thank you very much, comrade. We'll continue this conversation, and I hope the SOLA would provide platform. It's interesting. We have just little more than 20 people now, and we have over 150 people on the SOLA platform. So many people who have been contributing and raising or even advising on what we should do as far as the library is concerned and are not here today. But anyway, it's been a wonderful outing. We thank everybody for being part of this. We thank IFRA, we thank our friends and partners, FES, GPI, CDD. CDD was supposed to be represented by Dr. Saeed Husseini, who has worked tirelessly with us in the last 2 years. I think there is he had some flight disruptions coming in from Jos, but I just have 2 paragraphs of statements he sent across in terms of what the future looks like going forward. So I would like to crave our indulgence to read this. He says, firstly, I need to pass across sincere apologies for my unavoidable absence. I look forward to catching up on the recording of the event as soon as I'm on ground. CDD, that's the Center for Democracy and Development, has been very pleased to work with SOLA in this process, and we are looking forward to continuing the partnership in a second year. Just to add here that both CDD and IFRA, or IFRA through CDD, funded majorly the digitization effort of SOLA in the last 1 year, and we hope that will continue for a second year. The work done so far and the fact that a new generation of archivists have been trained, including a relative of the late comrade Basi Ekobasi, whose work is being digitized, and here he's talking about Comrade Uyi, have been huge success of our partnership. In addition to digitizing and uploading more historical documents in the second year, we also hope to have an in-person workshop later in the year where IFRA officials, CDD staff, SOLA, and the community of potential users of the archive can discuss how best to deepen the initiative. Finally, CDD will provide some funds for an academic research to publish a peer-reviewed article on the contents of the SOLA archive next year. So interested attendees should look out for this announcement. In addition to the work with SOLA, CDD intends to expand the archiving project to include other substantial documentary holdings. Some prospective partners in this regard include the documents held by Bala Usman Foundation in Zaria, the Molara Ogundipe Leslie papers held in Ijebu-Ode, and NLC documents held in Abuja. We would welcome any further pointers from this collective about additional holdings that could benefit from this initiative. Finally, we hope to launch as part of this project a dedicated website where from time to time, interesting, noteworthy, or rare documents from across all of the digitized archives pertaining to Nigeria's radical heritage will be curated, presented, and briefly analyzed in form of a permanent online exhibition. While the archives will serve as repositories, the additional website will serve as a venue for debate and commentary on the documents highlighted by a selected curator. We look forward to sharing more details about this in the weeks to come. Thank you for being part of this event and this momentous journey. That was from Comrade Saeed Husseini, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Democracy, who is being the go-between IFRA, CDD, and SOLA. So once again, on behalf of the management staff and board of the Socialist Library and Archive, I thank you for your patience, and we look forward to more conversations around it, but also partnership and collaboration and feedback from us when we have the time to go through the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you, Cyril. We appreciate Thank you everyone who is joined. See you soon, please. And please take time to go through the website. We really appreciate your feedback, but also point us to what we can do differently and also how we can make support the foundation. We welcome any kind of support, but also donation of book, as Comrade Uyi mentioned, digital materials that we can upload, books that we can also put in the archives on the ground in Calabar. Thank you all for being part of this.